Valentine's Day. The day filled with red roses, cheap chocolates, hollow I love yous, and economically irresponsible for the everyday American, but great for corporate America. Am I right or am I right? Valentine's Day is a day we all love to hate on when we're single, but we secretly look forward to every single year, especially when you're the opposite of single. I mean, who doesn't want to be showered with love, the excitement, the thrill, and then there's the heartbreak. But in 2019, one woman didn't just get her heart broken, she was given the unfortunate gift of death, a bullet straight to the back of the head. She was shot in her own living room, not by a stranger, not that it would have been better, but she was shot by the man who once promised to protect her. Today, we're diving into a case soaked in control and betrayal. The murder of Olivia Jones, a mother of two from Beaumont, Texas, whose husband claimed it was, wait for it, an accident. Yeah, where have we heard that one from? Oh, I remember. Almost every single guilty criminal in the history of crime. Because if he was telling the truth, then why was he trying so hard to delete the evidence? Let's dig in, shall we? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Crimes Digested, a place where we try to digest senseless crimes. If you're new here, welcome. And if this is not your first time seeing my face, I want to take a quick second to say thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join me on Crimes Digested every once or twice a week, depending on my mental health. We attempt to delve into some of the most perplexing true crimes happening around us every single day. Some of these stories are sad, some are unbelievable, some even unexpectedly tragic in the most heartbreaking way. But most of all, these stories are a little peek into the dark void that is humanity. Today's story does not disappoint, unfortunately, because there's unexpected developments full of tragedy and moments that are so unbelievable to the point of making you physically angry and revolted. So join me as we explore the story of the day meant for love but was filled by an act that was too vile to be described by such word. Very quick disclaimer, and then we'll jump in the story, I promise. Almost everything in this video is alleged, and sometimes my very own personal opinion when asked for. Most of the information is what you could also find online though, so please do form your own opinion if you want to form any. And if you have any additional information about this case, or if you notice something wrong, misleading in any ways about this case, please leave it down below in the comments so we can all partake in the knowledge that is you. As always, let's try to be respectful to one another in the comment section if anyone comments, so that we can foster a safe space for every single person to share their thoughts, opinions, and whatever else is on their happy little hearts. With that said, let's get into it. Before she was a murder victim, Olivia Dawn Simmons Jones was just a woman trying to do right by her family. Born on a hot Texas day in July 1980 in the town of Beaumont, Texas, Olivia's southern roots run very deep. Her loved ones describe her as this funny, loyal, and deeply maternal person. The kind of woman who could smile through her struggles, even when life kept throwing curveballs at her. She loved her family and everything that they represented to her. Love. Her sister says, quote, she loved love and she just wanted to be loved, end quote. Most people said she was that one friend who would remember you randomly or on your birthday and would send you text that said, just checking in. Olivia was a single mom for a while, raising her daughter on her own. She worked in a tax prep office, not exactly a glamorous or fun job, but honestly, kudos to her, okay? Because I cannot stand any job that requires so much admin, like work. It literally makes me dizzy. But someone has to do it. Then again, life wasn't fair to Olivia. She didn't have the time nor the options of being selective. Besides, her job paid the bills. Olivia wasn't loud, but she was present. A woman of undeniably strong presence. And in a world that forgets women like Olivia, I'm going to do my darndest best to make sure that you don't. Now, in enters Christopher Ray Jones, a Texas prison guard, a man who, on paper, seems disciplined, straight faced, clean cut, the kind of guy who made everyone say, they look so happy together. But you and I both know how that usually goes, right? Because looking pristine on the outside does not correlate to the inside as well. And when someone's outward appearance is the opposite of who they really truly are on the inside, it's hard to believe that other people would believe you even if you do go to them to ask for help. Christopher and Olivia met around 2009. They get married soon after, but theirs was not a whirlwind like romance. It was more like a slow drift into control. You see, Christopher was older, which nothing's wrong with that. Nothing's wrong with that. So long as every single person involved is of consenting age, no judgment. However, while Olivia saw a stable partner, her friends just saw big, giant, glaring neon red flags. They noticed how he was allegedly monitoring her phone. He kept tabs on where she went, who she was with, and how long she was gonna be with said person or said place. He was making financial decisions unilaterally, limiting her ability to even express her opinion. What seemed like a protective behavior at first quickly turned into possession. And concerned, well, that became controlling. He went out of his way to avoid any family gathering that her family was going to be at. And she was slowly being like isolated from her family members. According to one family member, Olivia would get calls from him nonstop whenever the family would get together. And she'll have to like walk away to answer said calls, which is not unusual when taken at face value until you hear bits and pieces of their conversation where he would allegedly yell at her. One friend even claimed Olivia had started to, quote, shrink in her personality, less bubbly, more cautious. The woman whose presence people had a hard time ignoring was turning into this recluse that wanted not to be seen. But she was never publicly like loud about it. She didn't announce her abuse. She wanted to keep the peace, especially for her daughter, you know? She was a very private person who didn't air out her quote unquote dirty laundry. But just like with every other situation where control and manipulation ruled, the day of reckoning would come. In the Jones home, that day was February 14, 2019. A day meant for celebration became one of nightmare. Instead of flowers and champagne, Olivia got a bullet to her head, literally. At around 9 p.m., inside their modest home on the north side of Beaumont, neighbors reportedly heard Olivia and Christopher having a heated argument. According to police record, Christopher was later asked what started the verbal altercation, and he tells the police that everything started with the big D. Again, no, not that kind of D. Stop being nasty. Christopher claims that he was considering divorce. They've been having issues, and he thought the best decision for the both of them would be finding their own happiness apart from each other. Olivia apparently didn't like the idea and she disagreed. What started as a conversation of what their future was looking like or should look like turned soured. Words got loud and then violent. Somewhere in that chaos, a handgun discharges, and that single bullet found its way straight into the back of Olivia's skull. Yeah, you heard that right. That was correct. Not the front, not the temple, not the sides, the back. Just that one singular bullet, meaning she was either walking away or trying to, which makes sense. The thought of her wanting to walk away from him or turning her back to him, that's unacceptable, unheard of. So he had to stop her, fast and permanently. Christopher calls 911, frantic and incoherent, telling them his wife had been shot. The 911 operator finally gets him to calm down long enough to ask him the location of his emergency. And 11 minutes after the phone call, an officer arrives at the Beaumont's house. The officer responding to the scene actually knows the couple personally because, again, Christopher is a prison guard. So, I mean, they're all running in the same small circles. He gets the frantic Christopher out of the house and away from his bleeding wife. I think in part trying to calm the man or distract him, but also protocol, right? He begins asking him what happened. How did she end up in this state? And Christopher starts his story. At first, he explains how she was shot in the head by someone who we don't know. But then he quickly changes the story to she did it to herself. He says that she threatened him with her life when he told her about wanting to get a divorce. In his attempt to disarm her, the gun went off. His fake cries were only interrupted when he asked the officer if she was alive. And to everyone's relief, with the exception of Christopher, of course, the officer responds, yes, she's still breathing, at least the last he checked. Christopher's immediate reaction was, she's alive? Is she talking? Don't tell me she's alive. Who says something like that? After finding out the mother of your child, the woman that you supposedly love, just survived the impossible, who would say something like that? And if you thought that was weird, then I'm about to raise your blood pressure. Because this is where things get crazy. Or if you're a prosecutor, damning. Christopher and Olivia had multiple cameras set up inside of their home. Security reasons, maybe, I'm sure. Although I find it hard to believe, I wouldn't put it past him if they were meant to keep tabs on Olivia when he wasn't around to keep tabs on her. But anyways, I digress. The police officers were thinking, well, this makes things easy. They were going to confirm his account of what happened, corroborate his story, write a report, and call it a day, right? Case closed, right? Right? Wrong. Because when they pulled footage from the house, nothing useful. A big chunk of the footage was deleted, gone, poof, disappeared, vanished. And the man of the hour, Christopher, says he has no idea how those footages just disappeared. He went from forgetting to charge the cameras to the internet being bad. He tells the officers to check the other days, just check and see. This is not the first day this has happened. He was very adamant that before the 14th, there was missing chunks of recordings as well. So the detectives does just that, and he shares his discovery with Christopher. He tells him that everything missing was after his wife's passing. It seems like he tried to go in and delete recordings from other days as well, but he deleted recordings from the times after the incidents, not prior to. This shows you how smart he thinks he is, but he's actually really dumb because future, sir, not, I said future, past, not future. Past, not present. This man really had me like, oof. The detectives went through previous video recordings just to see the day-to-day lives in the Jones family, and what they found was really gut-wrenching. He was constantly yelling and cussing and demeaning his wife. He spoke to her as though she was less than. Even an enemy shouldn't be spoken to the way he was speaking to his wife. And her response, or clear indication of how broken she was becoming by the constant hits to her self-esteem by this creature that called itself a man. And a few hours with her friends and family members shattered his story even further. The biggest nail in the coffin, though, was his own ex-wife's testimony. She described her relationship, or her previous relationship with Christopher, and how he would threaten her life, how he used to physically punish and drag her around the house every time she did or said something that he didn't like. When confronted with these new allegations, he finally admits to deleting the video recordings. And when asked why he decided to delete the video recordings or footages of his wife dying, the one thing that would exonerate him, I panicked. That's what he said. It made me look bad and I panicked. Since you're smart, I'm sure we're all wondering the same thing. Why would accidentally firing a weapon, which I've said before and I will say again, unlikely for the last time because it's a recurrent thing. There is no such thing as accidental firing. Okay? Your fingers should never be on the trigger, nor should the safety be taken off if you have no plans of firing. The second you take those deliberate actions, you are being very intentional with your action. And if you accidentally shoot your wife and you're innocent, which he's not, do you delete the footage or do you scream, check the tapes? It'll prove I didn't do it. It was all an accident? Exactly. Christopher is no longer just a possible suspect. He is now a suspect, no question. And the investigators are now tasked with figuring out exactly what happened in that house. And he was more than ready to tell them what happened. Well, his version anyways. He insisted that Olivia shot herself. Then he changed it again, said that they struggled over the gun and it went off. Then he admitted he might have been holding the gun when it discharged. But then, get this, he said he didn't remember. Amnesia. My favorite arc of every trashy plot line. Sir, it's not like a misplaced car key. You either shot your wife or you didn't. So which one is it? The inconsistencies were glaring. And the investigators, they also took notice. Because soon prosecutors were preparing a murder charge. By April 2019, just 2 months after the shooting, Christopher was indicted for first-degree murder and tampering with the evidence. But in the meantime, though, he was free on bail, placed on a house arrest wearing an ankle monitor. The community was quite upset about this revelation, especially when they discovered that he was allowed to operate their family-owned business since it was a food truck right outside of their home. Fast forward to March 2022, over 3 years later, the trial finally begins in a Jefferson County courtroom. The prosecutors laid out the evidence plain as day. Olivia had been trying to no avail to leave the relationship. Christopher couldn't stomach the prospect of his control over her diminishing, or that she would even conceive the idea, the thought of leaving him. That was not possible. So he shot her in the heat of the moment. And then he tried to cover it up by deleting the video footage. They even called in a forensic tech to explain the video deletion patterns. They explained that the deleted footage wasn't random. He deleted just the window where the arguments escalated. Just enough footage to avoid looking like the monster he was proving himself to be. Then the defense team takes the stand. They argue that this was just a tragic accident, one that Christopher himself was still grieving, that he had no sinister intent. But the jury didn't buy it. After 4 days of testimony and 6 hours of deliberation over a span of 2 days, they came back with their verdict: guilty. Here's an interesting twist. Christopher waived his right to appeal before his trial began. His team received an offer from the states. They could go 30 years if he waived his rights to appeal, or they were going to come for him and he'll possibly be serving 100 years if found guilty. They took the state's offer. But honestly, that should have been enough clue to him not winning. Because if his defense team truly believed his story and really thought that they were gonna win, why be worried about the risk of 99 years sentence? But they took the deal and waived his rights of appeal, meaning he can't even try to fight against the sentencing later on, whatever it may be. But with that, he received 30 years in prison and will be eligible for parole in 2037, just 18 years shy of serving the full term. He is currently locked up in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And yeah, but Olivia's death left behind two daughters, both teenagers at the time, but now navigating adulthood without their mother. Her family held a balloon release on the 1 year anniversary of her murder, and they all wore purple, the color of domestic violence awareness, and red, which her brother said was one of her favorite colors. And they read poems out loud to honor her memory. Her brother told a local station, quote, "She wasn't suicidal. She loved her kids too much. She was planning to leave. She just didn't get the chance," end quote. That quote hurts more than the crime scene photos. In 2023, Investigation Discovery aired an episode of Married to Evil titled Control Freak to Killer, a retelling of the Jones case featuring family interviews and expert analysis on the psychological pattern of abusers who kill when they lose control. The episode drove home this truth. Olivia's murder wasn't spontaneous. It was the final act in a long, quiet play of manipulation, fear, and power. Olivia was a woman loved by her family, raising daughters and planning a future, only to have been shot dead in her own home. The killer was someone who claimed to love her, but loved control more and fear his loss of control even more. The justice system responded, but can we really call it justice when she's still gone, buried? The only positive is knowing that he will be locked away and out of society, so no other woman will ever have to suffer the same by his hands ever again. This case may have been dubbed a Valentine's Day nightmare, but the truth is this happens every day in homes we don't see, behind curtains we never look behind. Olivia Jones' story is a warning about ignoring red flags, excusing protectiveness, waiting for the right time to leave out of fear, and seeing possession as a phase. It's never the victim's fault. It's the victimizers. And if you see the flags, burn them quickly. Burn them down before it's too late. If this story touched a part of your soul, good, it should. But here's the thing. My intentions are never to shock. I just tell these stories in order to remind at least one or two more people to honor the departed. A reminder to remember Olivia, to remember her daughters, the trauma that's left behind, and to remember what it costs to stay silent when control masquerades as love. But that's the end of today's video. I would love, 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 love to hear your thoughts on this story. So please leave them down below in the comments. Also, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe if you haven't already. And if there's a case that you are interested in, curious about, let me know down below in the comments, and maybe we can take a look at it together. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, do try to stay smart, stay curious. Not too curious, but stay curious. Remember, don't stay too quiet, okay? But with that, I'll see you again very soon. I'm wishing you a fantastic day. Bye.